Nathan has the runner. Daisy Pearce in space inside 50. If Bannon just kicks the ball, she backs her pace in, takes 2 bounces, runs to 30. This will be a wonderful goal. Coast to coast footy from the D's.
Kickers have got nothing to go to. Blackburn through Bellardo generates the kick. Who else? Benelli May.
Now another chance for them to go forward. Guest kicks it to Truce and up. Oh, boy! Harley McKenzie with a hanger.
Zagetti again.
Strong Zagetti.
Oh, great body work from Rockland. Chance out the back on her left boot. Brilliant. Celebrates with the fans on the hill.
And welcome back, footy fans, to another episode of Donnie's Disposals. I am your host, Coach Donnie Hess, here, back with another AFLW review. Round 2 is in the books, ladies and gentlemen. And joining me today as my co-host, a very, very good friend of the podcast, legend of Sandful W footy, recently retired captain, and one of my favorite people to talk with all the time about footy, Miss Allie Farrell. Allie, great to see you again.
You too, Donnie. Thanks for having me on the show again.
Awesome. And now that I have a chance to do it personally, again, a very wonderful retirement for you. I know it may not have been the exact way you wanted to go out. The fairy tale, go out with a premiership would have been your ultimate goal, but again, a wonderful season, getting Norwood to another finals, and just a wonderful, wonderful career. I know it's been difficult. I know with some of the injury issues, but a many, many congratulations, and hope that your off the field career is just as legendary as your on career.
Thanks for that, Donnie. Yeah, you're right. We didn't finish with a flag, not the way we wanted to, but still really proud of what the team were able to accomplish, and just finish my career off with a really enjoyable year. So thank you.
No problem at all. Let's get to it. AFLW round 2 has come. It has gone quickly. Before we dive into the nitty gritty, the nuts and bolts, shall we say, your thoughts on round 2?
It was really exciting again. The level of the competition has just gone up again, and the quality that we're seeing is just so impressive. And you do really see the cream rise to the top now, round 2. There's some standout teams, which I'm sure we'll talk about. But yeah, there was some really exciting footy, and some players that just really stood up in the game. So yeah, it's enjoyable.
Definitely, for sure. Let's jump right into it. You were in SA, and we'll start off with one of the SA teams, as the Adelaide Crows go over to Icon Park and beat the Richmond Tigers 41-12. And I think one of the most talked about things is the Danielle Ponter goal from the center square. OMG. I think I saw something online that showed this was a 79 meters all together. It was absolutely mental. Now, a little bit of skid due to wet grass probably really helped it out, but Danielle Ponter absolutely roosted this kick. Did you get a chance to see this, and how impressed were you from the center square and puts it over the goal line?
Yeah, that was unbelievable, wasn't it? I couldn't believe it didn't get touched, really, but that bounce really helped her out. And, she's just such a skillful player, and smart as well. So she could see, let's just bang it on the boot forward, and it worked out really well for her. And I just can't believe how far it went and then bounced through. So, yeah, that was really exciting.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those games. Just looking back at it, is like the first quarter was tight, second quarter was tight, and then the second half it just kind of eventually got away for the Tigers again. I think they're a skillful team. I think there's just a few things they need to work on in the Crows. Again, when you have Hatchart, Marinoff, Ponter kicking absolutely insane goals in Chelsea Randall on your team, it's very, very difficult for me to go, you're out of it. And this is just a class Crows team, especially on the road. Just a fantastic performance by the Crows here. Again, kind of pulling away a little bit in the fourth, pulling away some in the fourth quarter, and kind of making this a very resounding win by the Crowies. But again, the Tigers still a very class outfit. Anytime you have Mon Conti on your list, you are definitely in with a shot for sure.
Yeah, Mon Conti's one of my favorite players, another really skillful player. And I can't get over how quick she can run sideways. Like she's literally sprints sideways. It's amazing. But yeah, Ebony Marinoff, she's just in really good form. She started the season really well. You know, I think she had something like 14 tackles again. And then it's pretty hard to stop her and Anne Hatchard. And then you've got the likes of Chelsea Randall. She started on ball, which was a bit of a shock, but throw her in there for a 50th game, and then Tia Charlton. I think she's really stepping up now. I think this is like a third or fourth year for her, maybe third year. I'm not sure. You might know, but she was a really talented footballer as a junior, and she's just coming through now and really finding her feet and her strength and her fitness. And that's a very strong midfield, and they're going to be hard to beat again this year. So it'll be interesting to see them come up against the likes of Melbourne and North Melbourne later in the season.
Yeah, and I think Neve Kelly's been the other one that I think she hurt her. She got hurt last year, so you didn't really get to see her run off wing and her ability with footy in hand. We saw a little bit of it in the first game, and then some more here. So Neve Kelly has been quite the signing for the Crows. It'll be fun to watch this Crows team go on, because I agree with you. It's teams like North, Melbourne, Brisbane. Will be fun to see how they step up to it, and a team a little bit later that you support that I think will be quite the interesting matchup if they get that shot. So we'll jump over up to the Gold Coast, as the Gold Coast had an absolute smashing to the West Coast Eagles, 99-26. Jamie Stanton kicked 6 goals on return from an ACL. How good is this? This is one of those where the Sunnies fell a little bit short in round 1 against Carlton, which I was a little bit shocked by, because I thought Carlton really took some hits over the off season, new system, new coaches, a few players that had departed, and the Suns just kind of fell apart. They did not have a good 3 quarters in that game, fell apart, and it kind of crawled back, but just fell short. In this game, they absolutely smashed the West Coast Eagles, who's a team I think is really, really improved from last year, because they had so much turnover from last year. So this was a little bit of a disappointing result for me personally.
Yeah, well, you're right. Gold Coast just monstered West Coast, and it's really exciting for them to see them improve. And I think this game is really great timing for them as well, just to build their confidence, like going into the season. And it's not just Charlie Rowbottom in the middle there now. You've got Claudia Whitford that's stepped up. Like that's the best game I've seen her play. And and then just to see a player kick 6 goals in a game, and then we might talk about it more, but in other teams, seeing and that like Hoare and Shear kick 5 goals each, it's awesome. Like seeing the scoring now coming into this season. So yeah.
Definitely, for sure. It's been magnificent, and seeing bags of 3, 4, and 5 is absolutely great, because it shows the scoring is there. They just need a little bit more time to get there. But this is one of those. I feel horrible for West Coast. This was it was never going well. Gold Coast was just absolutely on fire, and they proved it. So we'll jump back to.
Sorry, Danny, I was going to say, unfortunately for Eagles fans, it's going to be, I think, a tough AFLW season as it was for the men. So yeah,
it'll be interesting. I don't think there is as bad as some people say. I just think sometimes it's a little bit like the men. Sometimes they go on the road, they struggle a little bit. At home, they play a lot better. Surprisingly, inside the confines of WA, that both WA teams play just a little bit better. I don't know what it is about that, but they do play a little bit better at home than they do on the road. So speaking of traveling, let's go to Alberton Oval in Port Adelaide, as they hosted the mighty Brisbane Lions, coming off that loss to Richmond. And unfortunately, they were not exactly nice house guests. It's a 50-point win at Adelaide, 76-26 by the Lions, kind of roaring back to better form, pardon the pun there. But this is a Brisbane Lions team that I know they lost Greta Bodie. I know they lost Emily Bates, but there's so much depth on this Lions team that I think eventually they're going to figure it out. And if they figure it out and get Allie Anderson, Sophie Conway, and some of these other really good midfielders going, I think they can make up for it to the point where they could be just as good. I mean, Dakota Davidson kicking 4 or 5 goals in this game was absolutely fantastic, kind of taking the spot for Jesse Wardlaw from last year. So this is still a Brisbane Lions team that on their day, they can put up points and put them up quickly.
Yeah, and I was lucky enough to go to this game, and the Brisbane Lions, they just looked so fit and so strong. Like they covered the ground really well and just ran out every single quarter. And like you said, Davidson, she's really stepped up in that spot. Like they lost Wardlaw, but they're really functioning well together and moving the ball nicely into the forward line for her. And she's just a really strong presence as well. So, yeah, and the game just it was a bit hard to watch because obviously being knowing a lot of the Port Adelaide girls, you kind of felt for them, wanted to see them put up a bit more of a fight, but you know the Brisbane Lions, you could tell it was a team that's been in the competition since the start compared to a new team. They just look so strong and fit. So, yeah.
It'll get there. It'll get there. It'll take a little bit of time, a few off seasons, some trainings, different things like that. I mean, because with some of the older teams, you're gonna get some of their aging stars retiring out. It's gonna bring in some new youngsters, which I think is gonna is that the competition is going to take a little bit of time. There's going to be smashings. It's going to happen. They're smashing in the men's, and they've been playing for over 150 years. So I'm not discouraged by this. I think Port has something. They have some nice pieces. It's just finding finding that connection. I think is they're still kind of trying to find that. Once they do, watch out. They've got some. I mean, Abby Dorick and Hannah Ewings in the middle. I mean, I think are going to make quite the combination in the future. Aaron Phillips is helping mentor some of these youngsters, so they're going to get a great education when it comes to footy. So I'm not worried about Port Adelaide. I think they just ran into 2 really good teams to start the year. I think their schedule opens up a little bit more. It makes a few winnable games coming up here very soon. So I think Port Adelaide will be fine. So
I couldn't agree with you more. They obviously are a young developing list, and they're going to get some really super exciting draftees this next coming draft, and that'll make them even better again. But yeah, it's really exciting. Matilda Scholes winning the Rising Star, round 2 Rising Star on the weekend. Super proud of her and how she's been able to start her season.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's 2 for 2. Two of the four ruckmen have had 2 of the 4 rucks have been 2 of the 4 rising stars have been rucks. Allie Morfitt and Matilda Schultz. It's like rucks are showing out. I kind of like it. So it's been a lot of fun. So all right, as much as I want to delay it, I gotta talk about it. We'll go to North Sydney Oval as the Swans fall to your beloved Geelong Cats 68-41, a 27-point win. But if you look at last year's results, Swans hung in this game a lot longer than they did the previous time. And you're seeing the impact of Lucy McAvoy, Chloe Malloy. But I mean, this Cats team, Amy McDonald, Nina Morris, Georgie Pasparkas has a little bit of an off day, but even still, this is a Cats team. They are dangerous. I don't think they're being spoken to or about anywhere near some of the heavy hitters, the North Melbournes, the Adelaides, the Brisbanes. This Cats team is right here. If that type of performance that I've seen in their first 2 games, absolutely smashing the Duggies and for the most part handling the Swans relatively easily, this is a Cats team that could do some damage if they stay healthy and continue to progress with these young superstars like Georgie Pasparkas and Amy McDonald in the middle.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a really good game, and I think the Cats did well considering it was at North Sydney Oval. I think Sydney really owned that ground, and they love to play up there. So I think that has something to do with a bit of how close the score is, because I think you're right. I think Geelong are going to be up there with the best teams in North and Melbourne and the Crows. So it's going to be interesting when we do get a shot against one of them. But it was just really exciting again to see. Even though Georgie had a quieter game, she was always going to get a lot of attention after the amazing best on ground performance she had the weekend before. But to see Nina Morrison step up, she's one of my favourite players. And, then you've got Amy McDonald. She just does her thing every week. So got really great depth in the midfield. And then, like you said, built a strong back line with the captain, Meg McDonald. And the thing that I love most is how Parry's stepped up. So the full forward, she's just, they just have to kick it in front of her, and she pretty much marks it every time. She's been an absolute weapon for them at the start of the season. And then obviously you got Chloe Shear, who kicked 5 goals. So, they're just going to keep improving. They've got some new players in, the Irish girl in Maloney. She looks really exciting and covers the ground really well, and she's just going to keep on improving as well. So, but yeah, like I said, Sydney, I think they're just going to keep improving as well with the young side they've got. And now that they've got some more experienced players in there, like Chloe and Laura Gardner as well, has started so strong. I'm loving her work. Obviously coming from the Cats, it's good to see her get, that really good centre bounce time and really develop her craft in the midfield.
And what's really scary to think about is that Sydney does not have one of their best players in Montana Ham either. Montana Ham's been out with a foot injury. So, but Laura Gardner has been an absolute impressive. I know going into the season, I had talked to a few VFL nuts that said Laura Gardner could be the signing, and Chloe's going to get you the highlights. Chloe's going to maybe the match winner. Laura Gardner is going to be the grunt that's going to get you 24 disposals, get you 8 clearances. And Lucy McAvoy is going to be your defensive stopper to give a little bit more experience to a very young back line that I think has really, really developed really well. But I kept getting here. Laura Gardner is going to be your surprise. Everybody's going to be shocked with how much she gets the footy. And she had 24 disposals in this game and like 4 or 5 clearances. She absolutely was everywhere the football was. She couldn't get into a star-studded midfield, and she's found herself a place that I think is going to work perfectly. So as a Swans fan, as disappointing it is to lose, you lose to a very good team and you keep it competitive. 27 points. I mean, there was a point it was over 40, and the Swans crawled back into this, and then the Cats put a couple of goals and kind of put it away. But there's a lot of confidence there. Like I said, I've been super impressed with what I've seen with the Cats. I think they are going to do some damage if they can stay healthy, which will be so much fun to watch. Let's jump to Ballarat. And unfortunately, depending on who you talk to, the expansions get a tick as the Hawthorn Hawks beat the Western Bulldogs 46-39. Absolutely cracking game. And could there be warning sirens at the Duggies, because this is 0-2 and it doesn't get any easier as the schedule keeps going for the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, it is a bit of a worry. They look like they're in a bit of trouble, the Western Bulldogs. They don't have much depth, and Ellie Blackburn's like really just trying her guts out, doing it herself in there. And, I just can't see where they're going to be getting these players from, because I don't think they have that many big names that are out. And yeah, really exciting for Hawthorn. Like you said, expansion club, getting the win away from home, and great experience for them. And it was a bit of an ugly game, but they're happy they got the win, and it doesn't matter if it's ugly or not. Yeah, you still get the 4 points. So.
Yep. Nobody gives a crap when it comes to the 4 points putting in the ladder. Absolutely agree with that. But The one thing I got to say though is Beck Goddard has come on and she's really made this Hawthorn team quite the interesting matchup. They are not this easy beat that you would think of as an expansion side. I mean, everybody looks Essendon was the expansion time. They were the glitz and glamour team because of Georgia G, Bonnie Too Good, and all that. Emily Bates, and Greta Bodie, I think, were great additions to this Hawks team because it took a team that Tilly Lucas Rod is a great player. Is she a game breaker? No, she's that grunt. She's that almost Libba in the men's section. She gets the ball out and then she gets it to the flashy players. So now having an Emily Bates who can come on and run and be able to deliver inside 50 to some really good players, I think it'll be fun to watch this Hawks team grow again. Are they going to be finals contenders? Probably not, but they're going to scare some teams. They're going to give some 9, 10, 8, 7, 9, 10 level teams. They're going to scare them because they on their day they can really, really cause some issues. So it'll be fun to watch this Hawks team. I agree with the Bulldogs on this. I don't think it's a lack of depth. I think they've been injury riddled over this preseason. I mean, I think I heard it was Lamb has been fighting a calf injury, so she's not 100% fit. If Jess Fitzgerald, I'm not sure if there was an injury with her as well, but she's not looked 100%. And they still haven't really addressed the forward issues that they had after losing Isabel Huntington and Bonnie Too Good. Sarah Hartwig can go up and go forward. She's a great player. Is she a marking forward? She pretty much came into the league as a defender. So they really haven't found that replacement for the forward line. So with injury and everything like that. So we'll have to see can the doggies figure it out, because it could be a very long season if some of these issues still continue. So it'll be fascinating on that. Let's jump to it. Collingwood v Fremantle. I believe this was at Victoria Park, and the Pies get their first win of the season. Brie Davy again, another strong game. Brett Benici again, another strong game. Still without Ruby Schleicher and Lauren Butler. So I think I don't want to put any certain opinion on this Pies team, because I think those two guns on the back line, I think, will really change this team. So Pies get a serviceable win. Fremantle, again, I think they're still kind of in this transition period from the original days where they were one of the better teams. They're kind of having to sub in some youngster players. It was great to see Kiera Bowers back after missing last week. So it's, again, typical Turbo. She's always in there, always around the contest, getting plenty of contests and getting plenty of tackles.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually have a really strong soft spot for the Pies because the coach, Steve Simons, he was my first coach at Norwood. So, I find myself barracking for the Pies when they're not playing Geelong. So, and also, Brie Davy is my favourite player. She's just phenomenal. So, love watching her play. But yeah, I think you're right. Without Schleicher and Lauren Butler in the back line, it does make a huge difference to the way Collingwood are playing at the moment and the way they want to play that attacking brand of footy off the half back. With Schleicher back in there, that's going to make a huge difference. So definitely wouldn't be writing them off yet. I think once they can get that depth back into their back line, they're going to be really strong again. And yeah, Kiara Bowers, gosh, she was out with a knee niggle in round 1 and then just comes into round 2 and goes bang. Like, unfortunately, Gabby O'Sullivan, she hurt her shoulder in the first couple of minutes of that game. So probably in the end, Kiara had to stay on the ground for most of the game. So she's super impressive with, her work rate. And then, just a lazy 17 tackles. She's just an absolute machine.
Yeah, she's so much fun to watch. I know I have a couple of friends over here that were watching the women's game, and they looked at me and they goes, if an AFL team is smart, they hire Kiera Bowers as a tackling coach, because her tackles are formed, they're perfect, they're intense, they're strong. Like, legitimately, it would be fun to watch her teach men how to tackle, because I think she could go to an AFL game and get at least 7 to 8 tackles. I 100% agree with that. I 100% agree, because that's just how good and intense she is. I absolutely love Turbo. She's so much fun to watch. Whenever I watch a Fremantle game, I have to find her, and I cannot take my eyes off her if the footy is around, because I'm just like, okay, when's she gonna tackle? When's she gonna tackle? She is
Yeah,
just
good
a
luck trying to block
person
one of those
seeking
tackles.
missile. So much fun. I love it. Maybe again, it's maybe a little bit of the coach in me, but I love seeing a good old fashioned tackle, and whether it gets a holding the ball or not, I love to see a good old fashioned tackle. Absolutely love it. So we jump to one of the other smashings of the round as North Melbourne flex their muscles all over the Carlton Blues as a 60-point win, 66-60. And this is a Kangaroos team. I've said it a few times that I mean it. I know they still haven't 100% been tested, but they have the list, they have the structure, and they have the best shot, in my opinion, to dethrone Melbourne this year as a flag contender.
Yeah, this is the year, isn't it, for North? I think like it's really coming together, and like you said, their list has been strong for quite a few years. It's just whether or not they can, take it all the way. And Lauren Garner, she's just an absolute superstar of the competition, and it's kind of like, what can't she do, really? She can kick goals, she can get centre clearances, and she's a tackling machine herself. So yeah, it's a pretty exciting side. Like, you see Talia Randall step up again. I think she kicked 4 goals on the weekend, and she just looks super, like such a great presence up forward for them. And I think just the way you see North Melbourne move the football, and they're just so well drilled, and making space and creating space for one another in that forward line is, just even not being at the game, you can see them working really like as a cohesive unit. And they just put on like a lot of pressure in the last couple of minutes of a quarter and get some red time goals, which is always gives you that momentum going into that next quarter. So yeah, I'm loving their work, and I think they're going to be really hard to beat.
Now they're going to be, and the crazy part about it is Emma Carney's on your halfback line now, which gives you one more great ball distributor. And I think Kate Shearer, originally when they had made the signing, I'm like, North Melbourne's forward line is already really tall. You add her, it takes a little bit of pressure defensively, or at least tackle pressure in your forward line on their defense a little bit. But I mean, when you bomb it up to the 3 towers, I mean, Emma King, Talia Randall, Kate Shearer, it's like, how any defender is going to touch the footy, because they're all tall, they all have really sticky hands, and they all are really good mark. So I think they might have found that perfect. They might have found that perfect way of going forward. Is it going to cost them a little bit defensive pressure wise in their forward 50? Maybe. But if you're kicking goals because you're marking the ball all the time, you don't have to worry about it as much. So it'll be fascinating to see when they step up against a Brisbane, a Adelaide, a Melbourne. Does that tall forward line stack up? It'll be fun to watch. But I've been thoroughly impressed. Jazzy Garner, again, absolute superstar. Somebody tell the umpires to give her a vote in the best and fairest, because for some weird reason, I don't know why, she's the most underrated, or at least undervoted, best and fairest type of player in the entire competition that I have ever seen in my life. I still can't believe that she does not poll as well. But when you have Ash Riddell, you have Jenna Bruton, you have Emma King, you have some of these absolute superstars on the roster, it's a little understandable. But it's Jazzy Garner. She's one of the best in the entire competition. How do you not notice her? So that'll be fun to see how this team goes. They're going to be fun to watch progress this season, and to see, can they be the foil to Melbourne. So we jump to it as Essendon face St. Kilda at Windy Hill. Windy Hill sees its first game in so long, and Essendon crowns its new home very, very well with a 12-point win over St. Kilda, 40-28 in this game. It was great to see Windy Hill being used by Essendon again. Maddie Pasparkas, you superstar. Bonnie, too good. As I said in my last one, and again, this is a little bit of a dad joke for you, Allie, but I gave her a nickname. I gave her a nickname of Justice. Bonnie, just is too good.
Love it. I see what you did there. Well done.
So
Yeah, it was very exciting to see Essendon get their first win at home, wasn't it? Down at Windy Hill. Like, what a great experience for the fans as well. At the end of the game, you could see Maddie Prespakis, really getting up and celebrating with them. So she's just an absolute superstar. I love the way she plays, and I'm really excited to see her live this weekend against the Crows. Just to see the way she moves out there and just just everything about her, really. She's just an absolute gun. And again, another soft spot I have is for the Saints because of their captain, Hannah Priest. I got to play with her at Norwood, and they're not having the best start to their season. So, yeah, again, a really young side. So hopefully, they can start to see some consistency across their quarters. I think that's all you can ask with such a young team. And they just don't, they're not able to run out the games as well at the moment. It's looking like they're struggling with a bit of depth in the midfield as well, because Priesty's having to, start on ball and take the best midfielder each game. Whereas, if you had just had that one extra strong midfielder, you've got Priesty in the back line, just racking up like she has previous years. So, yeah, they're going to have a tough year, I think, the Saints.
yeah, unfortunately, Jamie Lambert had to go from the forward line into the middle to kind of help them out. Steph Kiochi is more of a wing player, so I think Georgia Patrikios is finding the third or fourth season just a little bit more difficult than she did some of the early years. So there's tons of talent on the St. Kilda team, but there was so much turnover. I mean, there were so many losses and then so many new additions that it's going to take a little while for Nick Del Santo to be able to kind of get his troops together. I think eventually it'll come good. It's going to take a little bit of time, and unfortunately, it may cost him a few wins here early in the season. But hopefully, they get everything figured out. So, and last but not least, the coup d'etat, the end of the round sees Melbourne absolutely high GWS up at Manuka Oval, 99-22. As you said earlier, Kate Hoare with an absolutely fantastic game here. And this was out without Karen Paxman. So again, this is a Melbourne team so deep, so good. It is hard not to see this team having a really good shot of potentially being the first ever back-to-back premiers.
Yeah, they're scary good, aren't they? They just really do look at like a class above the rest at the moment, and their leg speed is electric. They you just look at the players they've been able to bring in, and they're young players that are stepping up with that leg speed, and then their elite foot skills. You can see just their forward 50 entries are what are impressing me, that they're setting up they've got Eden Zanker playing the best footy she has, and that's got a lot to do with how the footy's being kicked into her. And they're a super exciting team to watch. I love watching them because just how well they use the football. And I felt sorry for the poor Giants. There wasn't much they could do with the speed they were moving the footy. So, yeah.
And this is a Giants team again. They're relatively young again this year, just because of the fact, again, they lose two absolutely magnificent Irish superstars in Bridstack and Cora Staunton. It's going to take a little bit. Is there talent? Absolutely. Fleur Davis, I think she's going to grow. She's going to blossom. It's just going to take her a little bit of time because she missed all of last year with injury. You still got Georgia Garnett. You still got Zoe Goldswater. There's a ton of young talent on this GWS side. It's just going to take a little bit to kind of gel together as the years go on. I mean, you've always got Alicia Eva and Elise Parker in there, so you've got some superstar power there. but it's just one of those, when you face one of the best teams in the competition, sometimes you just have to bite the bullet and take what is probably a whooping, and which is exactly what Melbourne did. So that is all 9 games from last round. As we said, a fun round two, a few more blowouts than I would have liked. But again, you're seeing some of the really good teams face the teams that we weren't 100% sure. We got to see kind of a little bit on that. But again, we still have 8 more rounds to go. So we'll jump to it. My favorite part of the podcast, and that's burning questions. I'm going to ask you a few fun ones here, Ali. I can't wait to hear how you respond to this. And I may even have a question without notice that I thought about just a little bit. So let's jump into it. First question: Melbourne and North seem to be the class of the field. I know it's only 2 rounds in, ladies and gentlemen. Before we go to it, 2 rounds in, is there another team that could potentially foil these two meeting in the grand final?
I think the Crows again are going to be up there. They've just got such a strong list, and obviously having that Adelaide bias, so I can't see them falling too far behind. I think they can definitely upset Melbourne or North Melbourne, and they've got these young kids coming through, like I mentioned before, Tia Charlton, absolutely killing it. And I think Ponta, she could just be an absolute star of the competition. She's just so skillful and what she can do, below her knees. And she's just so clean. So I think definitely the Crows. And I hope the Geelong Cats. I think what we've seen so far is really promising. But, until we get to see them come up against them, top 2 teams, it's going to be interesting to see. So, and yeah, I don't want to say them all, but Brisbane, you can't go past their performance on the weekend. They were just like seeing them live. Like I said, they were just so strong and so fit. So they'll definitely be up there too.
I would 100% agree with those. Those 3 are the 3 teams right there that they're in that next tier. Like I said, how does Brisbane fill the holes of Greta Bodie and Emily Bates? For the Cats, is can they stay healthy? Because the depth past Amy McDonald, Georgie Pasparkas, Nina Morrison in the middle, that's the question, is if one of those goes down, who steps in? Can they have a good enough performance from somebody behind them to kind of make up for that loss? And then when it comes to Adelaide, again, it's Chelsea Randall. Can she weave her magic with this Crows team, especially with it Hatchard and Ebony Marinoff? I mean, they're pretty darn consistent. You're going to get great efforts. Can they kick goals? Can they be consistent going forward? Defensively, they're always really good. There's no way that Adelaide is going to play a bad defensive game. It happens very, very rarely. So can they kick goals? If they kick behind against a team like North, who can kick goals very easily with that tall forward line, or Melbourne, then you could see the issue. But again, this is going to be a fun season. Injury prevention and injury mitigation is going to be fun this season. But I know we're only 2 rounds in, but it is really difficult for me to see North and Melbourne not meeting in the grand final if they can stay healthy and continue the form that they are on. But again, going to be a fun season because we still have 8 rounds of footy. I think there's some magnificent matchups coming up very, very soon. So cannot wait. So we go from the high of grand final contenders to the low of, I'm a little worried. Are the Doggies in trouble after another loss to begin this season after making finals last year?
Yeah, like I think we said before, they are looking like they're in a bit of strife. It is early days. Hopefully they can turn it around, but yeah, having those injuries, not having that experience of some of the players that they've lost, and Lamb having that calf issue, and just losing that depth in, you might not have that goal kicking power anymore. So yeah, we'll have to wait and see, but it doesn't look too promising for them.
Yeah, sadly, like I said, they're one of those that, unfortunately, this is exactly as I said with the Crows, is the depth behind the Lambs and the Ellie Blackburns that will be tested this year. If we have any more injury, it could show a little bit of weakness in the list of the Western Bulldogs. So I'm going to throw in my question without notice because I meant to put this on and I totally forgot. So we'll ask this. longer quarters, interchange restrictions. Do you think it's improved the game with improved scoring this season?
Yeah, definitely. I think um, it's definitely improving the scoring. I think the longer quarters you're seeing, I think that's why you are seeing the huge difference in like the North Melbournes and Brisbane and Melbourne, because they do have the legs to run out the quarters. And they just look so strong. So I think that's the less interchanges is having a huge impact on that as well. And they're only probably going to get stronger as the season goes on. You could see that first round one when you had everyone cramping up, but these strong teams, they're just going to get stronger and fitter as the season goes on.
Yeah, I agree. I was a little worried on the interchange restriction, because I was worried that we were going to get, and I agree with what one person said, is tired players doesn't always mean great scores. It just means less good decisions, because as you get tired, you make bad decisions or you have shit kicks. And again, I know there's going to be people online to go, well, if you think about it, and I'm like, yeah, shut up, because you're just an idiot. So I'm tired of the trolls dissing women's footy, because honestly, it is a completely different game. The skill factor and everything like that. There are some women that are absolutely magnificent in this game. I love watching them play. I'm going to continue to support them. That's why I love this decision, that the longer quarters, absolutely love it. Now let's get a few more games, and your coach is going to be very happy. So we will go to the last one. I love that you're grinning, because you're going to love this question. I started doing this when I know that my guest host loves a club. I got to ask a specific question about that club. Cats with another impressive win to start this season. How far do you think they can go?
I think we'll see them make finals this year. I think it'd be disappointing if they didn't, to be honest. Like you said, as long as we don't get too many injuries, I think there is a depth issue, but though their starting side is super strong, and I think they can take it up to the best. I don't know if they can beat Melbourne or North Melbourne. We'll wait and see, or even Brisbane. But I definitely think they can cause an upset, especially if they're playing down at the Cattery. I love watching them play, and I've loved seeing them grow over the past few years. So now let's see how we go.
Well, and the scary part is, I said last practice, I said last round, I went, Geelong scoring goals. This is a new thing, because that, as I said at the start of they were the defensive kings or
Yeah.
queens. My apologies. The defensive queens, because they could win a game 8-6. Like, it was fantastic to watch. Defensively, they were absolutely fantastic. I think Gunjaka has been a surprisingly amazing addition in the back line, because Meg McDonald was always great back there. You knew she was going to be solid. But Gunjaka taking that fullback role has been absolutely magnificent. It was great to see her just absolutely flourish back there. This Cats team, they play really good defense. And now with Jackie Perry and Chloe Shear up forward kicking goals, wow, this is a Cats team on its day, can do a lot of damage. I agree with you. I think they could get to a preliminary final. That's how far I
Yeah.
think they can get, because they're there. They're in that top five. And if they get the right draw, they could make a prelim final. And I think they could push a North or a Melbourne in a preliminary final, and potentially I will have to see. Again, long season, but I'm very bullish on your Cats. I think they're definitely, they could be in that rung with Adelaide and Brisbane now, which is scary to think, because they were already young, and they're only going to get better as they get a little bit older, and get used to playing with each other more. So it'd be fun to watch
Yeah.
these catters grow, for sure, from kittens
Yeah.
to full grown cats, for sure. So we'll jump to it. As I do in the men's, I will do in the women's, and as I do my team of the week. And I started doing this because, for me, I want to give some shout outs to players, because I think this is a lot of fun. So I know you and I have chatted back and forth when it comes to coaching. So I want you to see the team I put together. I put a little bit more emphasis on goal scoring. So you'll notice occasionally that there might get somebody in there that you're like, huh? So So that's just a little bit of an explanation that I put a little bit more emphasis on goals. So if you kick a goal as a midfielder, you get a step up over a 35 disposal, 4-score involvement, but no goals. So here we go. We'll start off as, again, we're coaches. We start with the defense. We start in the back line. In the full back line, we see GWS's Tarni Evans and Carlton's Harriet Cordner. In the halfback lines, he's Gold Coast Daisy Darcy, West Coast Charlotte Thomas, and Fremantle's Emma O'Driscoll. On the wings, again, I try to keep these ladies in the positions that they play because, unlike the All Australians, I do wings and I do forwards in the forward line. My little pet peeve there. On the wings, he's Brisbane Sophie Conway and Melbourne's Sarah Lampart. In the guts in the midfield and the ruck, she's Ali Morfitt. In the midfield, sees Claudia Whitford of the Gold Coast Suns, North Melbourne's Jasmine Garner, and Melbourne's Olivia Purcell. On the half-forward line, sees Gold Coast Jamie Stanton and Melbourne's Kate Hoare. And the full forward line sees Dakota Davidson of the Brisbane Lions, Chloe Shear of your Geelong Cats, and North Melbourne's Talia Randall. On the bench, I do a defender, a midfielder, a ruckman, a forward, and then a utility player, a player from any of those positions that I think had a great game. Defender, North Emma Carney, got to get her in there. She had a fantastic game for North, even though they were going forward most of the time. In the midfield, sees Richmond's Monique Conti. At the ruck, sees Collingwood's Sabrina Frederick. The forward sees Gold Coast Tara Bohanna, and the utility Adelaide's Ebony Marinoff. So getting the midfielders, I will say this, I've said this a few times, the midfield positions are so difficult. I have to really, really think about this because there are sometimes I'm razor thinning decisioning on who's in the midfield and who's not. So the one thing I got to give the AFLW is I never have any issues finding a midfielder because there's almost always 6 or 7. I'm going, okay, I have to pick between you and you. Wow.
Yeah, imagine trying to be an All-Australian selector. It'd be a hard job to do. And the fact that Garner's on your interchange, it just goes to show how hard that would have been for you.
Well, Mon Conti and Ebony Marinoff are on my bench, and Jazz Garner's in. So at least unlike the All Australian or the best and fairest, I at least give her a little bit of product. So
love that. No, the one that I really liked in there, being a defender myself, was O'Driscoll. I was really impressed with her game for Freo. Just like, I think when they were really struggling in the back end of that last quarter, the last few minutes of the first quarter, and then that second quarter, she was just huge for them, and her attack off the back line, she really stepped up, and really happy to see her make the team.
Yeah, Claudia Whitford and then Tarni Evans for GWS. I mean, she repelled so much against the Swans, and she did the same thing against North. I mean, if it weren't for her, sometimes this game could have blown out even more against the D's. So I got to give my plaudits. I love those defenders because they're so much fun because you don't get a lot of the kudos that I think that the forwards and the midfielders do. So sometimes you got to give them a pat on the back, say, hey, heck of a job. Love it. So
Tarni Evans has been amazing. She's definitely All-Australian fullback at the moment, I reckon.
Hard to argue with you on that one. And Harriet Cordner coming up and playing well for Carlton, because unfortunately Carlton did not have a lot of things that went really well in that game. But I think she had a magnificent game there. She was really good for them. She was a little bit more halfback than fullback in this particular situation, but there were not a lot of strong performances from fullbacks in this round. So I decided to get a little sneaky and throw a halfback into the fullback line to fill it out. So alrighty. So we'll get to the fun part. We're still early on the power rankings. I tell everybody when I do my power rankings, I wait till at least round 5. So I will start power rankings in round 4 since we have a little bit of a shorter season. So we'll skip over that and we jump to tips. I know we're still early in the week. Teams haven't come out. Injury reports are still kind of a little bit fuzzy. So bear with me, Ali, on this one. We will start with tips, and the fun one right off the bat, GMHBA Stadium, your beloved Cats get their test. North Melbourne comes to town. Can the Cats get a win, or are North just a little bit that step to above?
Yeah, I was going to say, here's the test that we want. And I think at home, it makes it definitely, it could go either way. I'm going to go with my heart and say I think the Cats can get the win, but I think it's going to be a really close game. I think you'll see a lot of people just go automatically with North because of how hot they've been at the start of this season. But I really do think the Cats can take it up to them, and they've got that coverage in the back line. Like I really rate Emerson as a defender as well. So you've got Meg Mack and Emerson, and there's just so much strength back there. And we'll see how they go up against Garner and Riddell in the midfield and Emma King. So it's going to be an awesome matchup.
It's gonna be fun. I cannot wait for this one. This is gonna be one I'm going to be glued to when I get the opportunity to watch it. Probably not gonna get to watch it live. It starts 2:05 a.m. my time, so I'll probably watch this on delay, but I will watch this and watch it in its entirety. I'm gonna tip North. Nothing against you, Allie. I just think that I would, if I was Geelong, I would love to have this matchup in round 7 or round 8 when you get a little bit more into you. I just think North's height is going to be a little bit difficult because Meg McDonald is not exactly a skyscraper, neither is Ginjaka. So when you're trying to guard Talia Randall, Kate Sheelor, and Emma King when she goes forward, I just think that height is going to get you early in the season. Again, this is the Cats have a shot if they can win ruck taps and constantly pepper the defensive line, make the Kangaroos play defense. I just worry that they're going to play high ball and they're just going to kick mark going forward. And I think that could make the Cats day a little bit more difficult. So I'm gonna tip the Roos in this one, but I think the Cats are in this up to their ears. I think this is going to be a fantastic game, and the Cats win it. It will not shock me a bit because I think they've got the talent and they've got the style that I think could give the Roos a lot of trouble. So an interesting one at up in Blacktown in New South Wales as GWS take on the Richmond Tigers. This is an interesting one. I'm going to tip the Tigers in this one, but I think the Giants are in this one as well. The Tigers, there's a few frailties. I'm not sure. I saw Katie Brennan might have left the last game with injury. I hope she's okay and playing in this one, but again, we're still early. Teams haven't come out. I'll tip Richmond on this one. Monconti is an X factor, but GWS at home, never easy. Elise Parker and some of those youngsters, I think they'll push, but I think Richmond will win this. But I think this is another really good game of footy.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with you there with Richmond. Again, just bringing up defenders again, we've got Tani Evans and Ella McKenzie for Richmond. So I think it's a battle of those two defenders there, like who's going to be the better one and stand up. But I think, like Richmond probably have that bit more depth in the midfield, I think, and stronger power outside there. So we'll see how they go up in Blacktown.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. So, okay, you live in SA. Tell me where this is. Where is Wigan Oval?
It's actually it is a bit of a random oval, but it's in Unley. So the southeast, I guess you would say, of Adelaide, but it's a really picturesque oval. We've got the foothills in the background. It kind of looks like when they've got it on camera, it looks like it's in the middle of the country, like in like kind of out bush, but it's literally in one of the richest suburbs in Adelaide, like in the middle of the richest suburbs in Adelaide. So
all righty, because the Adelaide Crows take on Essendon at Wigan Oval. I was just like, I'm so used to, I like in the back of my mind, I was like, okay, Adelaide home game. This should be at Norwood. And I went, Wigan Oval. And I was like, I know I've heard it before. I couldn't picture it in the back of my head. So I wanted to be sure where it was because I think they were going to bounce around to a couple ones. I think the majority of their games are going to be at Norwood, but I was just kind of like, it just threw me off a little bit. All right, Crows, Essendon, fun one in SA as Bonnie Too Good and Maddie Prasparkas bring their Bombers over to face the Crows. Your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll go to this one. Like I said before, I get to see Maddie Prasparkas live, which is going to be really cool. But I'm tipping the Crows. I think they're still really strong. They're obviously have lost a couple of really strong defenders in Najwa Allen and Sarah Allen. But the Crows, the good thing about them is they've always had really strong depth. So I think they'll just have, another player come in for Naj and slot into their back line. So we'll see who that is on Thursday, I guess. But she's done her hamstring. So yeah, I'm not sure how serious the hamstring is. So we'll see how she goes with that. But yeah, it's going to be a good contest. I think Essendon will be able to run with them for maybe the first half, but I think the strong legs of the Crows will come over the top of them in the end.
Yeah, I agree. And unfortunately, it's just one of those. It's the Crows' depth and experience, I think, will just be a little bit too much. But again, when you've got superstars like Maddie Prasparkas and Bonnie Toogood, you just don't know. But I'm gonna go with you there. I'm gonna tip the Crows in SA. Melbourne, oh man, Casey Fields, Melbourne be the Western Bulldogs. Ugh. Unfortunately, D's big in this one. I love Ellie Blackburn. I think she's magnificent, but there's no way she's going to be able to handle that D's team pretty much by herself for the most part. I know Jess Fitzgerald still has not found form, and Christy Lamb is still getting back to 100% fitness. This is a recipe for disaster. I know their percentage is something north of 500. I mean, they could really put up a nice score here if they could get going. D's big, unfortunately.
Yeah, this could get ugly. You just hope Ellie Blackburn and Lamb can, just get around the young girls, and as long as they can take some learnings out of it, that's the biggest thing for them. I think going up against a class act of Melbourne, that's going to be really tough. So just have those key focuses for what they can work on and go from there, I guess. But yeah, definitely going with the D's.
That's one I'm not looking forward to watching the highlights of, for sure, unfortunately. So out west, we'll jump on to out to WA as Fremantle Community Bank Oval hosts Fremantle v Hawthorn. This is an intriguing game for me. Your thoughts on this one? Because this one's, I think, is a 50-50 game.
Yeah, it's a hard one to pick, actually. Obviously Kiara Bowers, she's just going to be doing turbo things as per usual. So it'll be good to see her and Emily Bates go up against one another again with them in the Hawks colours. So yeah, I don't know who to pick for this one. I think in Freo, I'm going to back Fremantle in to get the job done against the Hawks. But yeah, definitely wouldn't be surprised if Hawthorn do upset them.
Yeah, which is really interesting because I just turned on my tipping thing because I wanted to see. Actually, Hawthorn leads the majority of the tips with 78% in the tipping competition that I think Fremantle Oval home cooking sometimes. First time that some of these Melbourne girls, some of these Victorian girls will be able to go over to WA this season. Sometimes the travel can get you, especially in this one. I'm going to tip Fremantle in this one just because home cooking, Fremantle always plays well at home. I don't know what it is with the WA teams, but they always play really, really well at home. I'll tip Fremantle, but this one's tight. I think this could be an absolute cracking game of footy. Hawthorn with the young up and coming list, and Fremantle, like I said, Turbo and Ebony Antonio could be absolutely fantastic in this one. This one going to be a cracker. Tipping Fremantle, but I think this one is close. So our SEA Park as St. Kilda hosts the Port Adelaide Power in this one. And I'm going to go for the upset. I'm going to tip the Power. I still say Del Santos girls are still gelling a little bit. And I like what Port is doing. I think they've got that great midfield of Ewings and Abby Dowrick. I think Erin Phillips is starting to kind of find her mojo a little bit more. We just need her to kick a goal, for God's sakes, in the Port colors. That's the one and only thing she hasn't done for Port that I really want her to do. I think she gets it. It stinks that it has to be on the road, but I think Erin Phillips gets a goal here. I think she leads her Port girls to a win on the road at our SEA Park.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I think Port will get the win against Saints. I was listening to Lauren Arnell on the radio on the way home from work tonight, and she said this is going to be a good test for them because obviously they've come up against two really strong teams in round 1 and 2, and with them being a bit more inexperienced, now they're coming up against the Saints. So this will be a really good game for them to see where they're at, I think, and I think they could win pretty convincingly, to be honest. I think they've got some really classy players, and if they can put it together for 4 quarters, yeah, definitely we'll see them get the win.
I'm one of those. If I throw a bold prediction, I think Gemma Houghton kicks 4 in this game. I think she's got the opportunity to do that. I think she has herself a day out. So I think Gemma Houghton kicks 4 on that one. If I had to do a bold prediction, a fun one here sees West Coast host Carleton at Mineral Resources Park out in the West. Who do you like in this one?
Yeah, I think West Coast are going to have a really tough season. I mentioned that before. Carlton, like obviously they've got to travel over to the west, so that does even it up a bit more. But yeah, I think Corden is doing really well back there for them and holding up really strong. So I just think they're gonna and Lila Weefy as well. How good was her mark? We forgot to talk about that on the weekend. That was super exciting. But yeah, I think we'll see Carlton get the win for this one. How about you? What do you think?
I'm a little odd. Carlton has been hot and cold with me. I think they got lucky against Gold Coast because Gold Coast literally brain cramped in the last couple of minutes when they had a chance to win. Honestly, I'm surprised Carlton is 0-2. They get the win, and then Melbourne. I mean, most teams are going to do that to Melbourne, but I'm going to go West Coast. I think it's another one of those where it's a West team. They leave the confines of WA and they don't play as well. Is Gold Coast a great team? I just think they had a lot of emotion with Jamie Stanton coming back. So I don't know if I'm going to 100% put that on Gold Coast is that much better than West Coast. Carlton, there's still something not right, and I don't know what it is. And I think West Coast at home, Mineral Resources Park, they always play a little bit well. They always play a little bit better there. I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. I'm going to go for the semi upset. There's just something about this Carleton team I don't like. And again, it is nothing personal against Carleton. It's just there's something about the way they're playing right now. I just don't like the way it goes. And I think it could leave them in a trip like this, a very difficult trip out west, could cause them to get upset. So I'm going to take the Eagles in this one. All right, fly back over to Victoria as we see Collingwood host the Gold Coast Suns. The Suns get a second chance to take down one of the original teams in the competition as Collingwood face Gold Coast. I'm going to tip Collingwood. Bree Davy, Britt Benici, I think they're starting to catch their stride. Hopefully, Butler and Schleicher are back. I think we'll just make Collingwood too good in this one. But how good a matchup. Charlie Rowbottom, Bree Davy in the middle. I cannot wait to watch that matchup.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. And then, like you said, Benici, and then we've got Whitford as well. So that's going to be a ripper game, actually. And I think I'm going to go Collingwood too. I really hope we get to see Schleicher back and Butler. But I think even without those two, they could still get the win against the Suns. I think just the way they want to move the footy is that really attacking style. And, been super impressed with Nell. She's had a great start to the season. Seeing her go over to the Pies this year, I think she's had a really exciting start, and so hopefully I think she could kick 3 to 4 goals this weekend. She's building it into that form, so we'll see how she goes up against the Gold Coast Suns. But yeah, I'll go the Pies.
It'll be a fun one. Like I said, that midfield battle is going to be absolutely electric. And unfortunately, if I saw right, Kalinda Howarth has torn her ACL. So that's one of the stars for the Gold Coast Suns down, unfortunately, which hurts them a little bit with their depth. So last but not least, oh boy, this should be a fun one. Brighton Homes Arena up in Springers, Brisbane Lions v Sydney Swans. I love my Swans dearly, but they are going in against a very good team. This is going to be one of those percentage managers. Can Sydney keep this close? Can they not get beat by 40 or 50 in this one? I'm hearing rumors Monham could be back as early as this round, which fills me with joy. But I want to be sure that Coach Gowans does not rush her back. So this is almost one of those, I wouldn't mind him giving Monham an extra week. I don't think she's going to make that big a difference. I don't think she's going to give the Swans a chance to win this game. I still think Brizzy wins it, but I think Sydney's in this up to their eyeballs. Chloe Malloy's going to pull them up. This is their first time going on the road, so we'll have to see how they handle that trip up to Springfield, up in Queensland. Brisbane just a little bit too good, but there's still, I think there's some good signs. Can Sydney keep this a little bit closer than some expect?
Yeah, well, I think you just have to look at how Sydney played against Geelong, and I don't have Brisbane that far apart from Geelong, to be honest. I think they're probably on par, and I think Sydney can definitely take it up to Brisbane. It definitely helps, obviously, Brisbane being up in Queensland. It might be a different story if it might be a lot closer if it was in Sydney, but yeah, you're probably right. It is one of those ones, a percentage manager more than anything. So yeah, that'd be exciting to see Monham come back, hopefully. But yeah, like you said, obviously we don't want her to rush back because she's one of the up and coming stars of the competition. Well, actually not up and coming, she is the star of the competition. And yeah, we want to see her back playing more than just a week or so. So let's yeah, see how she goes.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun when she, like I said, we just need to get her healthy because last year she had the knee injury after the first game, missed half the season, came back, played 3 or 4 games, and then unfortunately they shut her down for round 10, which I think is one of the other reasons why the Cats absolutely obliterated us in round 10 last year because his Monham wasn't playing in that one. But again, it'll be fun to watch. Again, this is a Swans team. I mean, I came in with reality this year. They're probably going to be a bottom of 6 side, but hey, they got their win. I still think there's some opportunities on this schedule for a couple of more wins this season. So get some positivity up in the Harbor City. So Allie, that is going to do it. All 9 games tipped, some great conversation. It is great being able to sit down and having a chat with you. I will make sure and say this to people on camera. This lady right here is an absolute legend with everything that she has done. I've thoroughly enjoyed her ability to help connect me with players of the AFLW and everything like that. And her kindness and generosity has been very, very appreciated this year. I want to do this on camera and say this again. Thank you so much for everything that you have done for the podcast personally, because connecting with Bree Cleggett and some of these AFLW players. I have Steph Simmons from Norwood coming on later in the year. I cannot wait to have a chat with that little legend. She looks fantastic with every communication that I've had with her. So I really have to thank you for everything that you've done for the podcast because you've really helped me grow in South Australia. I will also give plaudits to Phil Aspinall as well. He's been absolutely magnificent hopping on to my sample shows and doing some of his connections as well. But I have to give credit where it is due. Again, thank you so much for everything that you have done for the podcast.
Wow, thanks, Donnie, and no, thank you. We absolutely love what you do, and your passion for the game is just absolutely phenomenal. You're getting up at 4:30, 2:30 in the morning sometimes. So I just really admire that, and I'm an absolute footy noffy like you. And if I had to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I would too. So I just think you're a superstar yourself. So thank you.
Well, I genuinely appreciate it. Again, this is always so much fun. I've had just a blast covering the Sample and the AFLW this year, and I know I cannot wait. It will be sad this year not seeing you get to play, but I think there's still a few on the Norwood roster that I cannot wait to watch again. I've had communications with Kobe Morgan, an absolute little ripper. She's fantastic. I cannot wait to see her grow and progress. I've chatted a little bit with Talita Bootke, who is your best and fairest this year for Norwood. I'm hoping to get her on to have a chat with her because she sounds like an absolute superstar. It's been fantastic. I'm trying to make some more connections with some of the other clubs. That it's my goal this offseason to find a few more connections with some of these other clubs out there because I want to be able to kind of cover all of the Sandful as much as I possibly can because it is a magnificent competition for sure. So that is going to do it for our podcast today. Again, ladies and gentlemen, keep an eye out again. Finals footy for the AFL, the VFL, the Sandful, and the Waffle. I have grand final coverage of all of the state leagues still to come, and I've got more coverage of the finals in the men's, and of course, AFLW coverage, and then the off-season supporter series where I sit down and chat with fans to get us through the several months with no footy. So keep an eye out, and that'll do it for another episode of Donnie's Disposals, and we will see you again very.
Ethan has the runner. Daisy Pearce in space inside 50. If Bannon just kicks the ball, she backs her pace in, takes 2 bounces, runs to 30. This will be a wonderful goal. Coast to coast footy from the D's.
Kickers have got nothing to go to. Blackburn through Villano, generates the kick. Who else?